Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sid Schumann.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Good PlayStation experience so far? Having fun? Excellent, that's what matters. One heck of a showcase there, and I'll tell you, I did not see our next game coming. Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, that trailer, I think like a lot of you, really caught me off guard. It did not seem what I associated with being Uncharted, but I think we're going to learn a little bit more about what went into it. So I want to introduce our guests. From Naughty Dog, we have Josh, Sean, and Kurt, and Claudia and Laura, our lead actors. Welcome. Okay, I mean that was one heck of a way to kick off PlayStation experience. I mean, what's been going through your guys' head? I mean, this is an epic sort of unveil for you, Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. What do you think of the reaction you saw?
Oh, we loved it. Awesome. Incredible.
I think every beat landed. Like, we were trying to be a little coy with, who's starring in this DLC, and I think everyone cheered at the right moment, and it was good. I was there. It was awesome.
I was watching the message boards as it was going on. I was saying, like, what game is this? Is this The Last of Us 2? Is this whatever? So, timed out perfectly. So, glad you all liked it. Yep.
What about our actors down here? What do you guys think?
Oh, hey. What's going on?
Hey.
Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding? We're so excited. It sucked to not be able to say anything about it for the last,
few months.
long time.
Yeah, I haven't told my kids. It's hard. They're at an age now where they notice everything, and I've had to lie to them for the first time, and it was worth it because it was great to feel the reaction in the room live. It was amazing.
Yeah. It's nice to finally be able to talk about it, too.
Always, always. So I guess one thing that instantly stood out to me is that we're having Nadine, one of my favorite characters from Uncharted 4, is back. And Chloe, one of my favorite characters from all of Uncharted, is also back. And I'm kind of curious how you guys came to land on this sort of premise, this setup.
Well, we explored a few different options with the cast that we had, different storylines, and this one just kept standing out. Simple as that. It was a great story. It's going to get even better as we dig deeper into Chloe's past and what made her Chloe that we love.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting challenge because we explored a lot of different avenues, a lot of different characters and possibilities. And one of the things that's really nice about the Uncharted games and the action-adventure genre in general is that it sort of lends itself to sort of these little side stories that explore other aspects of like the characters' lives and whatnot. And we knew we had sort of like put a nice shiny bow on Nathan Drake's story, and we were just thinking like, who are some of our favorite characters and who we'd like to explore a little bit deeper.
Just the idea of the chemistry of Nadine and Chloe together, just it gets the gears turning, and it was like exciting to think about the prospects of where that relationship could go.
Now, is this set, I mean, this is just sort of a selfish question. I'm super curious. Is this set before Uncharted 4? Is this set after Uncharted 4? Where does this fit into the timeline?
It's definitely after Uncharted 4.
Good choice. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess another question I've got is, are you guys kind of approaching this like kind of a DLC story add-on, or is, I mean, I know Left Behind was more of a standalone experience. How are you coming at The Lost Legacy here?
All right. It was started as a DLC, but we couldn't find, we needed longer time for the story to develop, and I would say now it's a story expansion. That's how we're terming it.
It's a standalone experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Longer than Left Behind, shorter than Uncharted 4. Like somewhere between those.
So beefy here.
Yeah.
It'll fall somewhere in there.
It's a beefy standalone game. Yeah.
Excellent. And I'm kind of curious too because what we saw looked incredible, but it didn't necessarily have all of the hallmarks that I normally associate with Uncharted. And so I'm kind of curious how you guys sort of landed on this as the way to unveil the game.
Well, this is actually the beginning of the game, where Nadine and Chloe has to go into this war-torn city to get a clue that leads them on their journey. So this is just the beginning. It's just the tip of the iceberg on this one.
Yeah, it's not the only setting for the game. We have contrasting setting later. We don't want to spoil too much about locations, but it is definitely all the hallmarks of an Uncharted game in this.
Yeah, you're going to have all of your classic climbing, running, jumping, shooting, death-defying escapes that you've kind of come to expect from the series, except this time you're going to get to be doing it as Chloe with Nadine at your side and seeing the cool relationship develop between the two of them.
It's awesome. So Claudia, actually, Chloe, such a huge fan favorite. Are you excited? Like, what's going through your head now that Chloe's back?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you because of all the excitement in the room. I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Awesome.
I love you guys too. And I love Chloe. She's all-time favorite character. You know, one of the greatest I've ever had the honor of playing. Sorry, what were you asking me?
How do you kind of get back in character, I guess? We haven't seen Chloe now for a little while since Uncharted 3, but is there anything particularly that you do to sort of get back into sync with the character of Chloe?
Well, it's a really good question because I don't think we're the same people a few years on. So that was a fun conversation to have. You know, what's happened to her and where has she been and what part of her internal landscape has changed and how is she going to be in relationship with people, because that's always been a bit of a challenge for Chloe, because she always sort of, when we first discovered her, she really liked to work alone, and her journey was having to learn to cooperate and be a bit of a team player. So it's fun. There's a lot of heart in this, and there's a lot of interesting backstory about Chloe that gets revealed, and it's just a pleasure to work with these guys again because they're story and character focused, and for actors that's just an absolute dream.
Laura, how about you with Nadine? I mean, just speaking personally and selfishly here, one of my favorite all-time gaming characters, I think. Nadine is so special. She's so distinctive. What is it like for you? Did you expect to be coming back for more after Uncharted 4?
Oh, I had no idea. No, but I knew when we were shooting Uncharted 4, there was just so much more to her character that we didn't get to explore. And so when they called me and let me know that this was happening, I was jumping up and down, just so excited to get back in it and actually show more of where she came from and her thought process. And this interaction between the two is just so wonderful because she's so businesslike and so focused, and Chloe is just not. It's the best interaction to see them trying to work things through. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. You know, the two characters are definitely, I think there's a bit of a contrast between them. So how are you guys approaching the relationship between Nadine and Chloe?
Well, I mean, so much of it is it's in the writing, and what's amazing about these guys is they hire people who are going to work well together for a long period of time. And so you can have the most villainous characters in their franchise and the kindest actors playing them. So it's a very interesting juxtaposition playing with Laura on set and then engaging. You know, we just get to experience the contrast of how our characters interact as opposed to how we interact, because we're really goofy and silly together.
The first day we showed up, I had never met you before. And so the first day we showed up on set, it was just instant.
Yeah. I was like, oh, cool. It's sort of like Nolan's here because we get to have a lot of fun, but it's not as annoying. So we can actually...
Exactly.
He'll be fine with me saying that. That's totally... He and I are...
Just a few less dick jokes, that's all.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that? Yeah. No.
I think it's fine.
So this question, I guess, is for everybody. Are there any fun anecdotes that came out of shooting this sort of reveal trailer here for PlayStation Experience?
Man.
It's a hard one.
Apparently not. No.
The answer is no.
No, it was just exciting to get back behind doing another little Uncharted story with everybody. And, you know, kind of peeling up what they were saying, one of the fun things about working with these characters and these characters is that a lot of the stuff that develops in the story is just a result of the interplay and the chemistry that these two have. So we have specific ideas that we want to explore, but then they come up with their own stuff on their own. So we often make improvising or making little adjustments as we go along. So, we came up with some unexpected stuff on the stage that you saw in the demo there.
I want to talk a little bit about the setting, too, because I was actually a little slow on the uptake when I saw it, and I learned a little later. The game actually is, at least this part of the game is set in part of India, if I'm not mistaken.
All of it.
Oh, the whole game is? Oh, cool. So kind of curious about that. Did you guys do a lot of research? What made you sort of settle on that part of the world?
Well, firstly, Chloe's half Indian, so it was good to go back to her root. And we're exploring at least a deeper part of her character than was previously explored. Plus, India's got really nice, iconography and hidden temples and weird deities that we can play off of. So it was a perfect setting for the game. So.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's if you look at reference from South India, rural parts, it looks like an Uncharted game already. It's gorgeous mountains, rivers, and you kind of get all these. You get excited about wanting to play in that space. Plus, we get all the great temples and this kind of classic Uncharted stuff available to us as well. So.
It's one of the places Nathan Drake hasn't been yet, so there's still a lot of stuff still standing that hasn't collapsed or been blown up. So give them a chance to do it now.
Josh, from your perspective, you're writing the game.
Yes.
Did you really dig into sort of some of the background of the mythology of India to get a better handle on it, or sort of research some of the locations, or what's your approach?
Well, it's been a very close collaboration with Sean and myself. Sean's also doing a good portion of the writing, and what we're doing is doing a deep dive into a lot of the mythology and particularly Hinduism. And for me, it's something that I studied ages ago when I was in college. Like I was a history minor, and who knew that would actually come in handy someday. So that's for me has always been one of the fun parts of working on the Uncharted games, is like learning about all these different cultures and things like that.
Sure.
Prior to writing characters that then go and try to take stuff. But even still. There's a lot of fascinating work, and we're going to be incorporating a lot of that stuff into the story.
Yeah. Awesome. I know wide linear, which I love as a term. That was something Naughty Dog kind of came up with to describe the sort of style of gameplay in Uncharted 4. I think it fits perfectly. So are we still going to be seeing that wide linear approach at work here in The Lost Legacy?
Yeah. I would say we're going even a little more wide than wide linear this time. Don't want to give too much away, but it's something we're excited about on the gameplay side. This kind of contrast of, an urban setting and a rural setting, and a tighter experience and a more open experience. So, and it ties with the story and all this stuff, but yes. Yeah. And Chloe's the best driver in the business, so we'll have some driving around.
Best driver in the business. Yeah, really taking a lot of stuff that we developed for Uncharted 4 and just expanding on it as much as we can.
That's great. What are you personally most proud of from the reveal trailer? I mean, is there a detail or a moment that any one of you is particularly just proud of how it pulled off?
I think for me, it's the reveal of Chloe. That the audience. They kind of guessed it, and then they were curious for a bit, and then the response was just amazing.
Did anyone see that person and think it was actually Chloe? 3 people. Yes. All right. Yeah, there was a lot of preparation, and there's a lot of internet stuff that can leak and things like this, and we wanted to make sure that this was a surprise, that we're going back to Chloe, and people can get excited about it. So successful that happened, and the stress is relieved, and people can get hyped now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud of the entire team for pulling it off. Like a lot of as with a lot of our demos for things like this, this takes an extraordinary amount of work to get it ready on time and looking good. So everybody really pulled together under Sean and Kurt's direction, and really made it happen in a ridiculously short amount of time. So, hats off to them, too.
Yeah. Awesome team at Naughty Dog. Those guys are incredible.
One person cheering for Naughty Dog at home.
Now, I mean, obviously, what we saw here earlier today, and I can't stress enough, I had no idea it was Uncharted. I think the rickety ladder was my first clue that maybe, I'm a little slow on the uptake here, but I saw that ladder wobbling around. I said, this might be an Uncharted game, I'm not sure here. But are you guys looking at this as sort of a new direction for Uncharted? Is this a different style, a different tone? Like, I'm kind of curious as to how you're approaching that.
Yeah, I think it'll do that naturally because of the story itself. It's, it's Chloe's story, it's not Nathan Drake's story. So some of the tone is shifting, definitely. Will it change completely? I don't think so. It'd be bits of both. Like it would be tonally different, but within the same context of the Uncharted world. If that makes sense.
Yeah, just by nature of it being Chloe, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
Like everything's built around her, so just mechanically she's going to move a little different. She's going to, like you see in the demo, she's taking cover in a different way, and like everything is geared towards her. So a lot of work has gone into just making all the mechanics and everything work for Chloe.
I know she has a very different fighting style than Nathan Drake.
She does. We didn't want her to be as brawly as Drake. She uses her body weight more when she takes down a guy and slams his head into a vent, whatever that AC vent thing is. So yeah, we had to rethink her kind of fighting style. We wanted all the melee moves to be different. So yeah, the animators kind of rethunk and recaptured a lot of all that stuff. So she has her own personality when she's fighting.
That's great. We keep talking about this trailer. I think we should show it again. Can we show it again?
Yes.
Sure. Let's see if the guys in the back can make that happen. I think we have a shorter version of it here. Let's see if they get that wound up. But yeah, I mean, this is a big moment for you guys. This is it's big. It's big.
Well, not as big as Uncharted 4.
Not as big
bigger
as
than
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good sized adventure, and everybody's gonna be surprised at how much content there is.
Yeah.
We're really excited. Yeah.
That's great. Now, coming back to our talent here, what is the sort of difference from like an acting perspective, directing perspective? What's that dynamic like? I'm sure some of you folks have worked with Mr. Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley. How do you see this team? What's it like working with this team? How does that contrast?
Okay.
What a bunch of... No, they're amazing. Are you kidding? They're just so wonderful. It's so much fun every day on set.
Yeah, I think what I noticed when I first entered the Uncharted family was what they prioritize. So for a performer to know that the surprise and the delight of knowing you're going to be working with people, and you kind of forget because you get a bit jaded in the business, or it's just, the hours subsume the sort of the joy of things. And every day is about how can we make this easy, how can we make this fun, how can we make it interesting. They never, ever, ever lose sight of who they're making it for. So they're so heavily motivated by what they think is going to be entertaining for the fans and the people playing the games. And they keep encouraging us to interact in ways that make it organic. And I think they really led the way in a lot of ways when I was getting into games, for making it as real and surprising and interactive as possible. So being able to sort of bring in theatre as an actor, it's sort of theatre, film, television, and voice work all in one, and then some other sort of medium that it creates on its own because of all the elements it brings into play. And so being with these guys, they value your input, they really listen, and I think it's a real hallmark aspect of the way they make games, that when you create something that's so story and character focused, people are going to start demanding that certain stories be told, or be finished in a certain way, or that certain characters have more of a chance to play out their stories.
Yeah, it is really rare that you get to, surprisingly rare, to get to work on a project and get really invested in the character that you're playing and feel passionate about the story.
Yeah.
And anytime we get to work with Naughty Dog, you guys blow everything out of the water. It's insane.
I agree with that. I have gotten a note from my producer. Let's check out that trailer one more time. I want to see it again. Let's check it out.
targets. One was the warehouse, the other...
You're in the wrong place, girl.
What the hell?
Got you. Nowhere to run.
Shit!
Back up. Go on for back. No.
You're late. I thought you were professional. Oh, you should relax. You'll live longer.
I love that.
Got to say, you can really feel the bass up here. It's like we're being in a massage chair or something. That was
Wouldn't have it any other way. Only the finest bass here at PlayStation Experience. Yeah, I mean, just seeing that again, I still have so many questions. I mean, I don't know how much you guys can talk about, but what's with the bombing and there's like this military presence? I mean, what's going on with all that?
Well, one of our main antagonists is the insurgent leader, and Chloe and Nadine have to infiltrate his camp. So that's basically the start of the game, them getting their first clue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that all is about. That's all I can say.
more to be revealed in the not-too-distant future.
Okay. We can't reveal all here, but yeah, I think I caught a mention earlier about perhaps a treasure or an artifact of some fashion is at hand here, and that's certainly something that's a hallmark of the Uncharted series. So how does that kind of factor in here with the game's tone, and how's that going to play a role?
They are looking for a treasure. We can say that, the Tusk of Ganesh, and it's kind of, deep-rooted in the mythology as well. So they're on their way to find this tusk. Essentially, they're teamed up, two unlikely teammates, and how they interact, how they conflict, ultimately how they grow and learn from each other is the essence of the story.
Mm-hmm. I know that the Uncharted series has kind of an off-again, on-again relationship with sort of the supernatural, if you will. And I know Uncharted 4 was a little bit more grounded, to use that word. Are you guys approaching from a similar perspective with the new game, with the Lost Legacy, or are you going to still flirt with the supernatural? Is that still something that's possible here?
The story is pretty grounded. I'd say the environment and the things you do would be where we explore a little more, but the basic story is pretty grounded.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's definitely a sense of grandeur and
mystique,
discovery of these kind of deep, kind of South Indian locations, and just capturing that. You never know. The story is very grounded, but you never know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I have nothing to add. We like to keep things close to our vest when it comes to this stuff, right? Save as many surprises as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
But like these guys said, we're going to be continuing the fine tradition of exploring these fantastical, otherworldly locations that are sort of hyper-real exaggerations of things that exist in real life, and the kind of places you would just love to explore and scamper around, and continuing that tradition.
Are we going to talk about how we find out Nadine is an alien?
Let's get into that right now.
Okay.
That was actually my next question. Yeah.
What's that?
What was it?
You're like, what did you say?
Very grounded
Far.
story. We
Very
tell it in a
grounded.
I
really
would love to
grounded
talk
way.
about that. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that. Looking at the physical performance that we were looking at there in the trailer, the physicality of the characters, I think, is really interesting. We talked a little earlier about how it's such a contrast from Drake. But tell me a little bit about how you pull off moves like that. Are you guys actually rigged up in the performance capture suit doing those things? Or?
We are in the performance capture suits. We don't do any of the crazy fighting, though. If you saw our amazing moves, you would understand why.
Too dangerous.
We usually
We're going to release some of them on the internet a little bit
exactly.
later today. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's all, it's like what Claudia was saying. It's this mixed thing of theater and film and voiceover all at the same time, and it's a crazy stage that we film in.
There was something that really surprised me. A couple of shows I've worked on, and this is, you know, no exception, where the decision has been made that when someone gets hit, it hurts, so that there's an element of reality and heart in the story that you're telling. And there was this moment where we were filming a scene from Uncharted 2, and I, Claudia, who was born pigeon-toed, was sitting like this. And I assumed that the table we were sitting at, you wouldn't be able to see Chloe's legs, and I was just sort of in character from here up like a newsreader. You know, you imagine they're probably wearing their board shorts underneath the suit and the jacket that, you know, the audience is. And so Chloe was sitting, well, I was sitting like this, and they kept it in the game. And I said to Amy Hennig afterwards, you know, my God, why didn't you put in the superhero feet for someone who actually knows how to walk straight? And she said, because it's utterly endearing, and I think a great part of Chloe, because if you push the superhero element too much, you lose the real texture of the game in terms of who these people really are. So she's sort of like me. She's not really trained in a particular martial art, but she could probably win a fight if she was in the right mood and had something that was worth fighting for. And those details make this world really interesting.
I think it's an interesting topic, actually. How
What are you saying?
They love you.
I love you too. In a really boundaried, health and safe way.
I'm curious how actors view gaming performances, especially on the scale that Naughty Dog delivers, and kind of what that's like compared to like theater or film or TV. What is that like for you? Do you approach that differently?
I think it's all approached from kind of the same place.
It's imagination. I mean, actors get squashed. Their imaginations get squashed in a lot of environments, and here you're required to have it. So that was the real audition, is can they bring this environment to life?
Right. It's freeing, but it's also more difficult because so much, if you're doing film, so much of what you can react to is in front of you. You're reacting to your clothes. You can move, and it becomes part of your character. And with this, because we are in those fabulous spandex outfits, you have to constantly have that in your mind of what you're actually looking like and what you're reacting to, because so much of it is just a big gray box that you're in. And so when you get people in the scene with you that you get to act with, like Claudia, it becomes so grounded.
Right. It's weird. I mean, there are logistics with the suit too, because it's Velcro, and so certain parts will get stuck, and you sort of, it's quite a funny pantomime in the change room trying to get into the suit because you keep sticking to yourself.
Your binoculars are just wire chicken chicken wire,
wire. And then
that are Velcroed to your suit.
Right. And the camera as well, because now these guys have, you know, got the camera arm on the helmets themselves so they can get more detail and face capture. That also creates logistical issues when you're, I think when I tried to do the binoculars, I kept bashing into myself, but some of that stays in the game, some of it doesn't. But it's interesting to see now with technology how much it's improved even over the last sort of 8 years, because you get a screen that shows all of the performers in the volume, which is sort of like the stage, and where they're moving in time and space. And in the beginning, it used to be stick figures that would just show dots that represented the dots that were on our suits capturing our bodies. Now you can get an almost, well, it's not perfectly rendered, these guys would, I'm sure, attest to, but a very realistic depiction of your character and how they are moving in the space. And a person's body signature, the subtleties of how someone moves isn't detected, I think, certainly not by my eyes. And sometimes when you're watching on the screen, aspects of the character come to life more fully on the screen, weirdly, than they can in the volume. Not just because of what they're wearing, but the way the computer translates the performer's movement. I can give you an example. There was a woman doing a fight scene, and I thought, it's weird that they've given her this role because she doesn't seem that confident when she fights. But oddly, when you watch it on screen, whatever she was doing was translating far better into
Interesting.
It was so bizarre to see that happen. So these guys are like reading The Matrix when they audition us. Because they're seeing things about us that they know are going to work up there. Especially actors who sort of walk in pigeon-toed and end up becoming an action heroine.
That's fascinating. What do you guys think about that? I mean, sort of this mocap. Well, we used to call it mocap. Now we call it performance capture because it's audio and it's physical as well. How have you guys seen that sort of evolve as you've worked on the various Naughty Dog games?
It's gotten incredibly advanced in the last few games. I mean, even the facial capture is so much more detailed. You saw we can almost get one-to-one. It's pretty incredible. Like, we get nuances on her performances or their performances that we wouldn't have expected. Even so that we've started shooting our camera reference data differently, going in closer, because stuff you would miss, let's say, on a wider camera or a full body camera, you get a lot more intimate with the characters and see these nuances you may have just glanced over, like a wince or a wink or some sort of like reaction to hearing some news. We get all that data, so
yeah, I feel like
very detailed.
When we first started, one of my first mocap gigs I ever did was so broad because it was more theatrical. You had to, it wouldn't read these small eye movements that you're doing, and now it's so cinematic. Everything, little tiny subtle things reads. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
I mean-
technology. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, one of the things that was very important to us from the very, very first Uncharted was that we wanted to sort of make sure that we were capturing both the body and the voice together, which seems like an obvious thing to do, especially now, but back when we started this 10 years ago, you were having people hire celebrity voice actors who would record in a booth. They'd play that audio back on stage for some random stunt performers who would then just gesticulate to it, and that's why you have all these old games where people are saying like, "Hey, what are you doing? I'm getting paid to move around," and it's just, yeah, it was ridiculous. So even from the very beginning, it was important for us to do that, and that's just evolved over the last decade up to the point we are now, where we use, like Sean was saying, face capture and capturing cameras on set. So.
Give me an example. I keep hearing about these tiny details you wouldn't even notice that actually make a big difference. I mean, can you give me like a surprising example of that? Like,
I would say if you got, let's say the actors are doing their thing and there's a piece of information, let's say we changed a line on a particular actor and the other actor was not expecting it. That reaction that you can't recreate of hearing something new, just a subtle eye movement or...
Interesting.
Those are the things that you live for, when you get that type of reaction. It's very real, very honest. That stuff we couldn't capture a few years ago, and now we're getting it.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite scenes in Uncharted 4. Okay, I'll say my second favorite scene because my first favorite is a spoiler. But my second favorite scene is when Nate and Elaine are just at home on the sofa having dinner together, and just some of the little things like they're picking up straight from the actors. Like Nate asks Elena how her day is, and Emily Rose, when she's doing it, does this little thing where like her eyes roll up, she like twiddles her hair a little bit and things like that. And just little things like that make it so much more human than what you tend to see in a lot of animation just on its own. And then, of course, our incredible animation team then like goes in and like makes sure all the little nuances are sold and makes it look fantastic.
It's weird that things have to be discussed. When you're in a play, you can do script analysis, you can talk about what the characters' motivations are, and then once the curtain goes up and you've rehearsed it, it's pretty much, it's in the hands of the actors, but these guys have to, I mean, case in point, this trailer itself is very nuanced and very ambient and atmospheric. There's not a lot of dialogue, obviously, and so this lives and dies on this character's reaction to its environment and, what we pick up as the audience watching it about the level of safety and, what's going on and, who is she communicating with. When Sean said to me on set, we're going to have a moment where your eyes will just come to the side and we'll be able to tell from your expression a number of things. And I remember thinking at the time, but this is computer generated. How much detail are we really going to get from that moment? And because the technology is so much more advanced than it used to be, I really did see that detail. I really did see those nuances that they'd promised. And it takes a real leap of faith for the actors working in the virtual realm because we're told there's going to be a big scary monster over here, so I want you to react and scream. And back in the day, before we really had great computer-generated imagery, it might not even be where you were looking. They might have popped it over there and you look really, which has happened to me, rather foolish. So it's amazing how advanced this has become that we can deliver things with fewer words, and sometimes things have had to be overwritten to convey the same ideas. But it's a crazy world, you know, the fact that if these guys want to see takes that they've filmed, they can bring a device onto the volume and replay the takes in the context of the
so
screen.
crazy.
And point it. It's like being in a room full of ghosts, because I can now point it, there you are at the moment, there you guys are, here's Laura, and then 5 minutes later you might not be there, and if I play that take, you've disappeared, but as I walk around the room, I'm going to confront you where you were during that take. And it just blows my mind that in the virtual space that we can sort of interact that way and make editing choices as well from that technology. It's wild.
It's fascinating. I've actually been blessed to check out Naughty Dog's recording studio. Now, this is probably, this was on the lead up to Uncharted 3, I think. So, I mean, you guys have probably made some leaps and bounds since then. But if you had to put on or gaze in your crystal ball, where do you think this is all going to go? I mean, or what are some things you'd love to see added in the future when it comes to this incredible cutting-edge performance capture you guys are capable of?
I think it's going to get better and better. I mean, we've already started to import digital sets, shoot almost as if we're shooting live action.
Interesting.
The camera, the cinematography is going to get more advanced. So you could actually set it up like it were a live shoot. One for one is ideal. So we'd like to get exactly what we shot into the computer, cut as if it were live action footage.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd love to see is just, we only just started using face capture on Uncharted 4, and one of the reasons we hadn't been using it before is because it was cumbersome and clunky, and while it's getting considerably less so, I think we and the actors are also looking forward today that we can do face capture without, you know, a giant honking camera sticking out in front of their face and like green dots and everything, and we'll get there eventually, but you know, it's little steps at a time. We sort of take for granted where we are now sometimes and think about what we had before, and it just keeps getting better and easier to do every year.
I'd love to see costumes more, like having to wear the suit. There's like these things you see in film where an actor can adjust their jacket or play with their hair or something, where when you're wearing the full suit, you can't really get a natural thing. You have to really think ahead and plan for it. Mm-hmm. So whoever's inventing that stuff, make it better, clothes.
We had to have Josh and I had to have a discussion on set in Uncharted 2 when I was doing a scene with Nolan. I reunite with him in a hotel room, and I'm sort of seducing him, and I run my fingers up his chest. And there was this pause, and I was like, what's happening? Have I done, you know, is my work terrible? I'm about to get fired. And they came back and they said, look, we really love this choice. And I'm like, oh, wow, they're talking about just a motion that I did with my hands and my fingers. Is that out? Can I not do that? And they said, we really love it. It's just has to be hand animated. It's not, you haven't got the markers on your fingers, so the computer's not going to pick this up. So they had to have a conference about it and decide whether it was going to be worth the time and effort that these poor people were going to have to put in to bring that to life. And they chose to go for it because of the added value. And to think that someone has to hand animate something that I've just done, you know, instinctively as a performer, it's wild how much reverence we now have to have for what it takes to then deliver your choices.
Mm-hmm. It was totally worth the effort.
And the thing now, we actually can capture fingers.
Oh, you can?
So yeah, it's gotten there.
Do you put the little green balls on there, or?
We have one on our index and our pinky, and one on our thumb, right?
Now we do.
Yeah,
Back in the old days, luxury.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, I mean, just an incredible day here overall. I want to ask you guys while I got you all here, what did you think of The Last of Us Part 2? What did you think of that, now that that's finally out there?
It's amazing.
What did you guys think?
Yeah, a lot of new tech. It's pretty promising. We're excited about it.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
I mean, there's a whole panel on it later today.
There is a panel on it a little later today.
I'm just glad there's no more secrets for us. We don't have to like say we're working on this thing. Can't talk about it. Now it's like it's all out there.
It's a relief, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to worry about leaking it anymore.
Have you guys had any experience with Troy and Ashley on the Last of Us side? Have you met them?
Well, they're just my best friends. That's all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've known about that for a while, and
Oh
it was
my.
really hard. yeah, it's really exciting. It's really exciting for them. They're both amazing, and they're going to do ridiculous things.
Ridiculous
Oh,
things.
it's so good. I was just crying backstage about it. It's so good.
Awesome. So before we go, just any final thoughts here? We have Uncharted, The Lost Legacy, really powerful start to PlayStation experience here. You guys literally kicked off the entire show. Any final thoughts here before we sign off?
It's coming out in 2017.
Yeah.
2017?
2017. I guess just thank you to all the fans who've made Uncharted the big success that it's been. Thank you for embracing Uncharted 4, and you know, we're going to make this the best damn Chloe Nadine experience you can possibly imagine, so it's going to be awesome.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. We're hoping it's going to be a sum of all the stuff that you loved in Uncharted, all the Uncharteds. So yeah, we're looking forward to it, pretty excited. And I would like to thank the team at Naughty Dog for the hard work. Those guys kicked ass.
Sure do.
Definitely long nights on that trailer. I mean, you could go through that demo, and just like every Naughty Dog thing, it's every person just putting 110% in. There's the little physics-based curtains on, or the clothes on the rooftop that you walk through that are fully dynamic and simulated, and you know, there's someone that really cares passionately about that. And
I wondered about those sheets. I was like, somebody put a lot of thought into that.
all real time.
We're very, very fortunate to be able to work at a company that like not only believes strongly in story and character, but is also capable on executing it to such a high degree of polish and care. You know, it's really, we're all very fortunate. Yeah.
We got the best team we could possibly have working on it.
Thank you.
Best guys in no business.
Thank you for Chloe. Thank you
Thank you for Chloe.
Yeah, thank you for Chloe. Thank you for loving Chloe. Thank you for giving me this one who's just a blissful joy to work with. It's a joy to turn up. Honestly, a joy and a privilege to turn up every day for work. I never know what's going to happen. I know there's going to be a lot of laughter and fun, and we work hard, but it's, you know, not really. Everyone back at Naughty Dog works extremely hard. We play and bring it to life and try to do it justice, but if it wasn't for you guys, there'd be nothing to make. So I'm really humbly grateful.
Yes.
What she
Thank
said.
you guys.
What she said.
Whatever. And Chloe talks like this in the game. It's a real improvement on the character.
Totally. It's just going to be like this.
It's like a major spoiler, but there you have it. You're welcome. It's a real adjustment and an improvement, don't you think?
It's a
I
challenge.
understand what I'm saying. It's awesome.
Yeah, so starts in India, ends up in San Fernando Valley, so you know, it's all good.
Chloe, the technology is so advanced now that Chloe can twirl her hair for like ever.
Which all has to be hand animated, by the way.
Right, but who cares, right? I don't have to do it.
Outstanding. Guys, it's been so much fun chatting with you here, talking about Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. Thank you, everybody, for listening in, watching from all over the internet.
Yes.
PlayStation